I'd like to welcome our viewers to another Customer Technology Spotlight series where we focus on magnetics and bringing in innovators, forward thinkers, engineers, product developers, product designers to discuss how their products use magnetics and maybe some of the future products and research that they're doing. I'm Michael Brand, and today I have the honor of being here with Dr. Patrick Rice, who is a senior marine biologist with Shark Defense, and he is also with the College of Florida Keys as the Chief Science and Research Officer. So Patrick actually, he got his PhD in marine biology and fisheries from the University of Miami, his master's degree in wildlife and fishery science from Texas A&M, and his bachelor's degree in aquatic biology from the University of Texas. There's got to be some sort of confusion or conflict in your mind, the Texas A&M, University of Texas, but I'll leave that for another discussion. So I guess my first question out of the chute, Patrick, how did you get into this? This is crazy stuff. How'd you get into it?
Well, you know, I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't want to be a marine biologist. I really can't. I was born in 1968, so that tells you a little bit about how old I am. Early on, back then, Jacques Cousteau had a great show called The Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau. Every Sunday I was glued to the TV, and there was also Flipper, the TV show Flipper, and I was so jealous of that little boy. I just wanted to be that kid. And then later on, a little bit later on, I saw the movie Jaws, and Matt Hooper became an idol of mine.
Yeah.
And so I'm obviously a Miami Dolphins fan.
There you go. Okay.
Ever since, in '72 they were really good, and I was just a little kid, so I became a fan of them because they were Dolphins. I didn't even know what football was. So I just can't remember a time when I didn't want to be a marine biologist, and that's really actually been a blessing for me. And I often, I'm an educator now, and so I often, use that as a tool to help my students focus on the future.
Yes.
Because in my opinion, it's a little bit easier to get over obstacles and not get diverted along the way if you have a goal. So yeah, I've been really lucky to have, they always ask you what you want to be when you grow up, and I'm lucky enough to be that.
This is great. So can you tell our group that's watching what is Shark Defense? Can you give an overview of Shark Defense?
Sure.
Okay.
As the name implies, we are a company that's devoted to really reducing the harmful interactions between sharks and humans. And that goes both ways, right? That can go, primarily we focus on saving sharks from humans. That's our main goal, because there's plenty of people out there working on saving humans, or trying to work on saving humans from sharks,
Right.
And so we've been fortunate enough that most of our technology can be applied in both ways. Anyway, that's our main goal. That's our main mission.
Patrick, interesting, because most people would say, you need to save people from sharks.
Correct.
So why the opposite? I mean, what is? I'm deathly afraid of sharks. So just, full disclosure.
Well, it's okay. Look, it's in your DNA. You're supposed to be afraid of sharks. The reason we're walking on land is probably because a shark scared some primitive ancestor up out of the water and into the land. Yeah. So it's perfectly fine. It's in your DNA. It's in my DNA too. Okay. But, really, sharks, there's I always think of this funny little caption that I saw from in a cartoon in a newspaper one time that said, these guys are sitting up on a Navy ship with guns and everything behind them, and they see a little shark swimming around, right. And they say, oh, look, it's the most dangerous animal on the planet. Think about that. Human beings have a reputation, and we kill far more sharks than sharks are killed by humans. And they play an incredibly important role in the ecosystem. Basically, without sharks, your whole ecosystem can get sick, because what they do is they weed out the weak and allow for a stronger gene pool. That's their job.
Okay.
And so, if you have a fish that's got, say, scoliosis, which is deformation of the spine, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a genetic disorder. And if that fish is allowed to breed because nothing ate it, then all of a sudden all its babies will have a tendency to have the same genetic disorder. And so that, that's their job.
Okay.
And so they're critically important. Yet in 2003, there was a publication that came out that suggested about 90% of the world's large predatory fish have been removed from the ocean. Oh. And to me, that's a really scary number. Yes. And that's right about the time that we started the company Shark Defense.
Okay. I will just say for the folks watching this, behind Dr. Rice is this great video going on, or this great background, and he is indeed one of those divers in that video. So
there's me right there with the bald head.
Hey, Patrick, Shark Defense talks about being kind of a leading researcher in chemical, electrochemical, and magnetic repellent. Can you just talk for a second about magnetic research, and specifically we're talking about permanent magnets? We're not talking about electromagnets, we're talking about permanent magnets.
And surprisingly, the electric magnets don't work.
And why is that?
We don't really know. We can theorize and hypothesize, but we haven't been able to quite figure that one out. I can tell you, so we started the company focused on chemical repellents. Okay. And I'll just briefly give you, we went back in some of the old Navy research. The Navy's been trying to find a shark repellent for almost 80 years and have tried just about everything and haven't been able to do it.
Okay.
We went back into some of their old declassified documents from World War II because we had heard a couple different things. One, fishermen will tell you if you want to keep sharks away from your fishing gear, you can kill them and hang them off the side of the boat. This is old fishing lore. And in a week or two, the sharks will run away. And I guess the Navy had been exploring that and got really close, but they didn't have the techniques and tools that we have today. And so my business partner, Dr. Eric Stroud, is an organic chemist, and he was able to use some of the advanced, gas chromatographs, mass spectrometers, and other things to look at some of the chemicals that come off the carcass of a dead rotting shark.
Okay.
And anyway, that's what we were doing, and that's because of that research, we actually stumbled onto the magnets, believe it or not.
Okay.
My business partner, Eric Stroud, is incredibly curious. He is probably the smartest human being I've ever met. He's in the New Jersey Inventor Hall of Fame. And he had sharks in his basement in New Jersey in a big, one of these Intex pools that you've seen with pumps and seawater and everything. He's got a really large basement down there. And, that's where we did some of our initial research on chemicals and things of that nature. Well, one day he was playing with a very large neodymium iron boride magnet, hockey puck style magnet.
Yes.
And he was down there and he noticed that the pump was rattling and acting weird. So he started to walk over to the pump with the magnet and of course, realizing how strong these magnets are, thought maybe I better not get it close to the pump because of whatever the internal working parts are, and set it down next to the tank. Well, lo and behold, there was a small shark that was coming by at the time. And when he put it down, the shark took off on the inside of the tank.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Shark didn't see him.
Yeah.
The shark didn't see the magnet, but it felt it.
He felt it.
He's like, wow.
So how did he feel it? What makes a shark feel this?
I'll explain that in a second, but he did that over and over again. Like these sharks in captivity typically will swim around the perimeter of the tank. And every time the shark would come by from the outside of the tank where the shark couldn't see him, he'd move the magnet up to the tank and the shark would dart off.
Okay.
And that's right about the time he contacted me and we discussed it. I have believe it or not, I just happen to have a really strong background in magnetoreception in marine organisms.
Okay.
And I was working on my PhD at the time, trying to reduce bycatch during commercial fishing, which is one of the main critters that are captured during commercial fishing are sharks.
Right.
And it's unintended. They don't want them. The fishermen don't want to catch them and the sharks don't want to be caught. So we were trying to see, is there some way that we can develop something to be applied so we could, keep the sharks from the fishing gear. What happens is this, okay? A permanent magnet generates a magnetic field, okay? Yes. Anything with an electric charge that moves through that magnetic field will generate an electric field. It's called
Yep.
Faraday's law, right?
Yes.
Sharks have electrical sensors on the tip of their nose and along the side of their face. And these electrical sensors are um, finely tuned to
Mhm.
picoamps. They can detect a heartbeat, the electricity from a heartbeat. That's how
Wow. Okay.
sensitive they are. And that's
Okay.
why they've developed them. Sharks are one of the nature's perfect machines. They haven't changed much over the years. Uh, and this electric sense is unique to them, sharks, skates, and rays. So what happens is when the shark swims into the magnetic field, it
Mhm.
starts to sense the electric field that's generated as it's swimming in, right?
Right.
And when it gets too close, it overwhelms their senses
Okay.
and they have to turn away.
Okay.
And the analogy I like to use is we've done research on sharks with magnets over and over again. We've actually put tags in the sharks and released them and then captured them later on, and they've grown and they're healthy and they're strong. So we know it's not there's no chronic damage.
Right.
There's nothing hurting the sharks. So our best analogy is, when you're in a dark room and someone flips on the light, all of a sudden
Yes.
hurt, but you got to close your eyes and you're like, like this until
Yes. Yes.
it's just overwhelming those sensors. And that's what we believe is happening with the sharks when they get really, really close to it.
So are magnetics used with bycatch now? Is that what is happening to, I guess, help to eliminate this bycatch?
This is one of the research projects that we started with back
Okay.
years ago. We did a couple of things. We started just trying to put a magnet close to the hook,
Yeah.
and we had some success with reducing bycatch, but it turned out to not be a practical solution
Okay.
because fishermen, when they fish, they've got thousands of hooks
Yes.
all together,
Strung
and
out.
the
Yeah.
magnets, everything would get clumped and tangled and everything. But we did get about a 25% reduction in bycatch on the very small amount of research that we did.
Okay.
After that we thought, let's try something a little different. Instead of putting a magnet close to the hook, we actually tried to magnetize the hook.
Okay.
And that seemed to work a little bit better, and we had some success. And then, subsequent to that, we actually stumbled upon a new discovery, which was one of the most eureka moments of my life.
Yeah.
And one of the things about being a scientist that's really cool, I wish and hope that every person who aspires to be a scientist
Yeah.
has a moment like that where they're like, oh my God, I can't believe what we just discovered. We found these metals, the metals that are on the left side of the periodic table,
Yes.
actually have a repelling property to sharks as well.
Okay.
And when we discovered it, we didn't know what was happening, but we later learned that, we conducted some research, and basically what's happening is you get these metals start to decompose in salt
Yes.
water, and
Yeah.
they form positive cations
Okay.
without getting too deep. And then when the shark swims up to it, they're an electric, a negative charge,
Okay.
because they're swimming around in the ocean all day long, actually picking up electrons. They get
Sure.
an overall negative charge. And when they two get close enough together, you actually get a nice shock, about 1.5 volts of electricity.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
a D-sized battery.
Yes.
And that makes them turn away. So we thought, okay, let's take some of these metals, let's
Yeah.
wrap that around the hook, we'll magnetize the hook, and we called it a smart hook. Which
Okay.
stood for selectively magnetized and repellent treated hook.
Oh, okay. That-
And we tried the smart hook, and we had, again, a good 25% reduction in bycatch, but we could never get the commercial longline guys to go for it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, their fishing is very routine,
Yeah.
very, what's the word? Like, it is monotonous, and it's the same over and over again. And
Right.
what was happening is they would have to spend time, part of this process of having magnets and corrosive electropositive metals. Basically, they had to spend a lot of time conditioning the hook to get it ready
Okay.
for fishing, as opposed to just pulling it back in and setting it in the box and going, So
Yeah.
we actually started looking at bait,
Okay.
and making a shark repellent bait.
Yep.
And our latest invention, if you will, is, not our latest invention. We started looking at squid bait and shoving chemical repellents in the squid bait.
Sure.
and
Sure.
then having that chemical repellent mixed in with a water soluble wax that had electropositive metals in it,
Yes.
and then trying to see if somehow we could get flakes of magnets or something, but we
Okay.
can never really get the magnets in there because especially with the neodymium iron boron, they're nickel plated,
Yes.
and so if you break them apart, they become a little bit dysfunctional.
Yeah.
But our latest product
Okay.
is
So shark repellent chum. What's in the shark repellent chum?
it's a chemical shark repellent, and we have it mixed in with the proprietary um, uh, water soluble food grade binder.
Okay.
And you basically just cut it in little chunks, and you put it in a little cage down by the hook, and the scent goes along with the scent of the bait, and it keeps the sharks away very well. So that's our latest product, and we're having some real good success with that.
Yeah.
Are aware, if you're not aware,
Shark bands.
these are magnetic bracelets
Yes.
that use very powerful 52, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think that's correct.
52 magnets.
Neo 52. So Patrick, does those shark bands, do they work with every species of shark? The things that I've seen are more around bull sharks versus other sharks. And I've also, just looking at videos, I've seen researchers try to use ceramic magnets or ferrite magnets, and they didn't work as well as the neodymium magnets. So first question is it a specific type of species of shark that only magnetic repulsion works with, or is it across the board?
Well, let me put it to you this way. All sharks have the ampullae of Lorenzini, which is the electrical organism. Some depend on it more than others.
Okay.
So with sharks, there's a hierarchy of senses.
Yes.
They have seven and a half actually senses, if you will. They have our five senses, taste, touch, sight, hearing, and smell.
Okay.
Right. But they also have a lateral line along the side that senses very low frequency vibration, like a thrashing fish in the water, or a thrashing swimmer, if you will. And then they have the electrical sense.
Yes.
And that electrical sense can also be used, obviously, to detect magnetic fields. So that's why I said 7.5. It's really an electrical sense that can be used to detect magnetic fields.
Okay.
It's not a true magnetic sense.
Okay. Is the stronger the magnetic field more better for more species, or is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay.
All of our research suggests that the stronger the magnet, the more violent the reaction when the animal is repelled.
Yes.
However, like I said, a nurse shark, for example, nurse sharks swim along the bottom. They're not, they use their magnetic sense, but their their sense of smell, and they have these little barbels. Yes. They are really not really dependent so much on their magnetic sense. So when you get a nurse shark involved, I mean, you get reactions from them, but they may not be as violent as some of these sharks that are. I think that this application, like the shark bands, is perfect. Yes. It's perfect application for this type of technology, because what's happening is typically in murky water, right, where somebody's sunbathing, and they're up waist deep, right? Yes. A shark's cruising around. They're not able to see, so they're really focusing on their magnetic sense a lot, or their electric sense a lot. They come into contact with the leg, that's giving off bioelectricity. It looks like a fish, smells like a fish, and it gives off the electric field of a fish, right?
Yes.
Yet, if you've got a shark band there, though, it's going to interfere with their electric sense enough to where they're going to turn away. Okay. They're going to, and same thing with the surfboard dangling their feet off the edge. If a shark is investigating, typically, I think that they would bounce off this field.
Okay. I got to see some of the videos with, let me see, Bernie.
Yeah,
Bernie. The test dummy.
Yeah.
Great videos, by the way. And I did notice that it was this, is it also good for other types of sea animals like dolphins, turtles, tuna? I mean, is it geared to that, or is it really just sharks?
I think it's just sharks.
Okay.
I can tell you this. I
Mhm.
have done research with other marine life, especially tuna. Um,
Okay.
when I said 7.5, there was
Yes.
a reason for that.
Okay.
There is such a thing as a true magnetic sense.
Yes.
Lobsters have it,
Okay.
turtles have it,
Yeah.
um, tuna have it. There's some evidence that migrating whales have it. And
Okay.
basically, it's a little magnetic crystal called magnetite that's associated with the brain. And as an animal moves in the Earth's magnetic field, it either opens or closes neurons that cause that fire. And it's basically an internal compass in the animal's head.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I have not been able, though, to, in captivity, I've done a lot of work with yellowfin tuna, and I have not been able to, I've done uh, I've done it with electromagnets and I've done it
Yes.
with permanent magnets, and I haven't been able to elicit any response from tuna. But keep in mind, that's in captivity. These
Yes.
animals, all animals, when they're in captivity, their senses are always dulled.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they're just maybe the sense of smell, not so much, but if you get them in captivity and you can keep them alive, then they become conditioned to being fed and other things, and they just don't behave like they do out in the wild.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to Bernie for a second. I thought that was the greatest video series with Bernie, the test dummy, hanging his leg off of the surfboard with a bunch of chum and fish in it for sharks to come after. So, but from the research that you did and from the video footage that you did, about how far does a shark get to this? I'm going to use the shark bands because that's what was on Bernie to repel. Like, do they need to get within a certain space, or does
50
it start to
centimeters.
hit them from a very big distance? When does this magnetic field actually hit them?
Again, it depends on the magnet, but it's about 50 centimeters, about half a yard.
Half a yard.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's for sure. I did see that a gentleman by the name of Brad Hook, who is with a company called surfed.com, really was pushing the shark bands to help protect surfers out there. So I know that, as you're saying, protect sharks from people, but he's doing it to protect people from sharks, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, ultimately, research and development which is what we do at Shark Defense.
Yeah.
We make the discovery, and then there's a variety of different applications. And these guys from Shark Bands came to us and were asking us, was there some way to possibly put this in a device that a surfer could wear? And
Okay.
we went through a bunch of different prototypes and discovered that yes, we could find a magnet that was small enough and convenient. You can't wear a hockey puck size magnet
Right.
on your
Yeah.
arm, especially when you're trying to surf. So
Right.
we were able to develop a prototype and help them, and we kind of consult with them now.
Yes.
They license the technology from us,
Okay.
and we consult with them on the science side of the house.
Great product. Great product. So now I'm going to push a little bit today, and now there's this research that you've done going on in magnetics. How do you think this has impacted your industry in marine sciences, just magnetics? I'm going to, if I can, keep you to magnetics. How it's impacted the marine sciences and in your industry?
Well, I think we changed the perception. This
Okay.
one little company, Shark Defense Technologies. Let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
I was doing my PhD research,
Mm-hmm.
looking for mechanisms to um, save sharks from hooks, basically, keep them off the fishing
Okay.
gear. And I met Dr. Stroud. He wasn't Dr. Stroud at the time, but we started working together, and these discoveries were all new, and nobody believed us. Even though we were doing all of the research and showing all the videos, my PhD advisor told me if I didn't stop working on that crazy magnet stuff, that he would take away my funding.
I'm glad you didn't stop, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, we definitely had to push the rock uphill.
Yes.
And it's funny now because I go back to conferences and I meet with, my advisors, and and they're all like, "Wow, you really, you discovered something."
Yeah.
And now it's everybody. When you think of shark, we used to think of shark repellent. You remember the old Batman, like
Y-
bat shark repellent, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We're
That's the one
dating
I get.
ourselves, but of course I remember that. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, exactly. This is the one I get all the time because shark repellent was considered a myth, a snake oil, if anyone ever said that
Right.
there was such a thing. Uh, and so we had to work really hard to change that perception in the scientific community. And now we're Dr. Shada and myself are both recognized as experts when it comes to shark repellent technologies, and we changed the industry.
And I guess my last question is, do you see permanent magnets playing a more dominant role in the future in shark repellent or even marine life in general? Do you see anything happening with magnetics?
I do.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of applications. Um, I think protecting beaches is a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
If you spin a magnet, right, you can throw the magnetic field even farther.
Yes.
Um, and so, right now they use these nets on beaches in Australia
Yeah.
that unfortunately capture and kill a bunch of sharks.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
if you could employ some magnetic technology there, perhaps maybe you could get the sharks to stay away from the nets
Mm-hmm.
and keep them away from the beaches as well. So that's definitely one application. Personal protective gear, not just maybe during surfing, but perhaps spearfishing.
Okay.
Um, there's a couple other things that we're working on right now. Unfortunately, I'm under non-disclosure agreements, so I can't
Sure.
really
Sure.
talk about those. But look for some more magnetic technologies in the future that are going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, uh, just I mean, I've been able to do some really crazy stuff with magnets with
Yeah.
sharks in captivity, especially like I've been able to make sharks swim through magnetic mazes. Uh,
Oh,
it's kind of
okay.
a cool little thing that I do with when I'm doing education and outreach stuff.
Yes.
Basically, you'll put a bunch of scuba diving weights and make a maze with the scuba diving weights, and then finish the maze with magnets, big ceramic magnets,
Yeah.
and you start the shark swimming, and it'll swim right over all of the lead weights, and then the minute it hits the magnetic the ceramic magnets, it starts to swim back and forth through the maze. And usually I'll give them a little treat right at the end, so it's kind of neat. It's kind of like the mouse with the cheese in the
Yeah.
maze kind of thing. So who knows what I mean,
Okay.
really, I mean, we've even talked about protecting fiber optic cables,
Yes.
because sometimes sharks go down there and bite them. Telecommunications cables. There's any place where sharks and humans interact and it's not beneficial to either. Probably has an application of some type.
Okay. Okay. Well, hey, Dr. Rice, I do want to thank you. This has been fantastic. I, one more little tidbit about you that I want everybody to know. You used to work in the Peace Corps.
Oh yeah,
You were a Peace Corps person, and you said it made a tremendous difference in your life.
yeah. Well, yeah, I would. I got out of with my bachelor's degree and thought I was ready to go out and save the world, and really couldn't get a
Right.
job. I got a job in a microbiology lab focused
Mhm.
on multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, and I hated that job. Uh, so I looked into I remember, somebody telling me about the Peace Corps, and I looked into it, and I was in Fiji, so that was a really cool place to be in the Peace Corps. But
Again, nice travel places, but go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we're all
um,
jealous now again.
yeah. And what I did there was basically in the interior of the island, they get isolated during the rainy season from the coast, which is really their only true source of protein. So I helped
Okay.
them develop fish farming technology. And
Hmm.
what I realized, it was a real struggle. I left behind, a girlfriend and a life, and went to do this crazy thing. And when I was done, I came out invigorated, realized I had to go back to grad school and
Okay.
get my PhD because basically I just realized that one person can make a difference, and that's really a message I send to all my students at the College of the Florida Keys don't give up. It's not too late. One person can make a difference, and just follow your dream.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you again. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
again
me.
for discussing magnetics. Best of luck with the new products, whatever they are coming online. We'll
I'll
look
let you
forward
know.
to seeing those go. So in the meantime, Dr. Rice, we wish you the best. And again, thank you for being part of our series.
Thank you very much for having me. Take care.
Okay.